Okay, so I think it's recording now. Can everyone hear me? I'll just go back to the first slide since it's recording so we can get this on session again. So sorry for the repeat. Uh, Today's meeting is being recorded. Thanks for joining us today. Many of you may have attended last November's networking event in which SFE shared some early information about this forthcoming RFP. Um, there have been some changes since the initial networking information session, so we're glad that you're here today and we're happy to welcome all of you. Okay, so we're moving on to the agenda now. Today's agenda will cover a lot of information. All this information is in the official RFP document, so please read the document thoroughly before preparing your applications. So some of the team from SFE is here today. I am Sheila Layton. I'm the contracts and grants manager. And I'll allow the rest of you who are here on the call to go along and introduce yourselves as well.
Thanks, Sheila. We'll just go in order down the list. My name is Melissa Fondakowski, and I'm the Senior Grants and Communication Coordinator at the Environment Department.
Hey everyone, my name is Lavanya Deepak, she, her pronouns. I'm the Senior Racial Equity Coordinator.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shraddha Mehta. I'm the Community Partnerships and Engagement Program Manager at the department. Nice to see you all.
Hillary here, she, her, and I serve our commercial zero waste. I see a couple other SFEers. I'm not sure if we should ping to those. Maybe raise your hand or jump in. Oh, here we go. Next page.
Happy Friday, everyone. My name is Mintu Lei, and I'm Assistant Coordinator for the Commercial Toxics Reduction Team.
Everyone, Hui Lei here, Residential Toxics Reductions Program Coordinator.
And I'm Pally O'Hea, Toxics Reduction Program Manager.
Great, thanks everyone. I'll take it from here for a few slides, and Sheila and I are going to tag team through the presentation. So for those of you who are a little less familiar with San Francisco Environment Department, our mission is to advance climate protection and enhance the quality of life for all San Franciscans. San Francisco Environment is responsible for coordinating the city's climate action work. We collaborate with city agencies, community-based organizations, businesses, residents, and other partners to achieve our goals. We've already had a great month of climate action. So if you participated in any of the events with us from last week, we really appreciate you and we're glad to see you here on the webinar today. Our programs include zero waste, toxics reduction, and healthy communities, energy, climate, clean transportation, and community partnerships and engagement. San Francisco's goal is to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2040. Our climate action plan outlines the strategies to get us there and achieve not only the city's emissions reduction goals, but advance racial and social equity, support the city's economic recovery, and improve health outcomes for San Francisco residents. In addition, San Francisco Environment supports inclusion of San Francisco's residents and businesses in achieving its goals through several public programs that provide rebates, incentives, resources, and free educational and learning opportunities. And so now I'll just take us through the overview of the forthcoming opportunity. It's actually not forthcoming anymore, it's open now. So we'll just run through the overall. So as noted on page 3 of the official RFP document, the 2025-2027 environment grant making cycle may provide up to 1.1 million in funding for up to 28 projects across 4 primary categories. Please note that the city may increase or decrease these amounts at its sole discretion and may adjust the grant award amounts and/or the number of grant awards made in each category as well. The performance period for awarded projects may be up to 24 months, so that's 2 years. And the city also retains the option to extend the terms of the period up to 6 years. So please note there are only 4 categories for this RFP, and this is the major change from the networking event if you attended last November. Those 4 categories are toxics reduction and healthy communities, zero waste, community education and engagement, and urban greening. San Francisco is working to ensure all residents and workers live in and enjoy healthy, sustainable, and equitable environments. The Planning Commission adopted the Environmental Justice Framework in 2023 to establish a clear set of visions and priorities to improve outcomes in communities burdened by environmental pollution. The San Francisco Environmental Justice Communities Map is based on CalEnviroscreen, a tool that maps California communities that are most affected by pollution and other health risks. The map includes additional local data on pollution and demographics. These city commitments were developed in collaboration with environmental justice communities, and the Environmental Justice Framework is incorporated into the general plan introduction. Therefore, serving environmental justice communities is a priority across all categories of this RFP. Please use the San Francisco Environmental Justice Communities Map as a guide to help you determine the pollution burden of your project's target audience. The link to the map that's shown here on the slide is on page 4 of the RFP document, and I will also place it in the chat as soon as I finish my presentation. And now we will run through the description of the individual funding categories. Please note that this begins on page 4 of the official RFP document. The first category is toxics reduction and healthy communities, and this starts on page 6 of the RFP. This category invites applications that reduce the public's exposure to toxic chemicals. Grants will be awarded to projects that focus on one or more of the following: preventing pollution at the source, promoting the use of safer alternatives to toxic products, protecting workers, and protecting overburdened and vulnerable residents from toxic exposures. Applicants may propose a project that is focused on providing direct services, education and outreach, or both. Target communities may include one or more of the following: communities with a moderate to high pollution burden, according to the environmental justice map shown on the previous slide, vulnerable populations such as the very young or the very old, and workers with occupations that expose them to a disproportionate environmental burden. And here are some examples of toxics reduction in healthy communities projects that would be eligible under this category. It's not limited to these, but these are just some examples and ideas for you. Projects that directly remove toxic products from homes, schools, senior and/or daycare centers, and replace these products with safer alternatives. Toxic products may include furniture containing flame retardants, nonstick cookware, cleaning and pest control products, and more. Another example is projects that educate residents, workers, and care centers about toxic chemicals and provide information on safer alternatives and safe disposal. Another example is projects that target housekeeping gig workers, day laborers, or other special groups to help reduce their exposure to harmful cleaning and building maintenance products. So please refer to the RFP document for more examples, as well as examples of projects that are not of interest to this category. The next category is zero waste, and this begins on page 7 of the RFP document. This category invites applications from for-profit and nonprofit organizations whose work in source reduction, reuse, repair, recycling, and composting helps San Francisco move toward zero waste. Zero waste is inviting grant proposals focused across 3 subcategories: general zero waste grants, which reduce landfill, disposal, or materials generation through circular economy programs for products, programs that promote reuse, and projects that maximize composting and recycling by San Franciscans and businesses. Second subcategory is responsible production and consumption. These projects would promote lending, repair, and longevity of used clothing, electronics, furniture, apparel, or other consumer goods. They would also establish lending libraries, repair clinics, and reuse exchanges for tools, equipment, electronics, furniture, and other consumer goods that reduce production and consumption. And the third subcategory is to support zero waste events. These projects would provide greening services for public community events in San Francisco, including on-site recycling and composting, support and greening consultation services for event producers on waste reduction strategies. They could also support events with reusable cup services for public outdoor events on city property and city streets. Please note that for this subcategory, it does not include hauling of refuse on city streets on behalf of events. So no hauling of refuse. Target communities for zero waste grants may be one or more of the following: environmental justice communities in areas with moderate to high pollution burden, as noted on the environmental justice communities map. Residents, businesses, or any entity in San Francisco that produces discards across all 11 districts. So that's everyone in the city. Some examples of zero waste projects ideal for this grant opportunity include, but are not limited to, a community group that's interested in hosting tool lending, tool, equipment, and clothing exchange, repair events, or other programs that reduce consumption through reuse. A nonprofit or a for-profit event production company that will support compliance with Chapter 16 Environmental Code by launching reusable cups at permitted City and County of San Francisco events, festivals, street fairs, neighborhood block parties, and conferences. Small event greeners interested in receiving support to help expand their zero waste event greening services, including but not limited to recycling and composting sorting services, purchasing zero waste stations, providing services to community and cultural events. Another example is the development of community composting operations or compost or mulch distribution sites to make free compost and mulch accessible and available to all residents. And another example are food recovery and donation proposals, which are welcome to apply under the zero waste general grants subcategory. So please refer to the manual for more examples, as well as some examples of projects not of interest to this category. One point of note, which can be found again in the description of this section, is that all zero waste applicants must circle the zero waste subcategory to which they are applying on the application cover sheet. And please be sure to address the category special considerations questions in your narrative, as it is listed on page 8 of the RFP document. The next category is community education and engagement, and this begins on page 9 of the RFP. This category invites applications that educate community members, empower them to take part in sustainability initiatives, implement community-led climate solutions, and help residents realize toxics reductions, healthy communities, clean transportation, and a zero-waste circular economy in San Francisco. Grants may focus on engaging youth in environmental justice and climate action, advancing climate-related community ambassador programs, and partnering with San Francisco Environment to recruit and deploy volunteers who will champion environmental projects in their own communities. Projects may support education and outreach activities that connect sustainability to other community priorities, such as improved health or economic outcomes, or activities that mobilize community members to take action in their own neighborhoods. Target communities may be one or more of the following: environmental justice communities with moderate to high pollution burden, as noted on the San Francisco Environmental Justice Communities map. And low-income residents, people with limited English proficiency, small businesses, transitional aged youth, seniors, people with disabilities, or other populations who are disproportionately burdened by climate change. Some examples of projects eligible under this category are youth education and empowerment, including developing a sustainable or climate-focused internship or fellowship program for youth, or supporting youth to implement their own climate action projects in their communities. Another example is leveraging models such as promotoras, community health workers, and community representatives to develop ambassadors that can educate and engage their peers, neighbors, families, small businesses, and other community members on issues including zero waste, circular economy, food recovery, food waste prevention, toxics reduction, healthy homes, electrification, decarbonization, clean transportation, and other environmental topics in order to shift perceptions and behaviors towards sustainability. That is essentially a long list, including everything related to the environment. Another example of a project are neighborhood-focused activations and programs like volunteer programs that organize, mobilize, educate, and support community members in participating in activities such as street cleanups, parklets, or other greening activities. This is by no means a complete list of project possibilities, so please refer to the manual for more examples, as well as for some examples of projects not of interest to this particular category. And our final category is urban greening, and this begins on page 11 of the RFP. This category invites applications for urban greening projects that advance local biodiversity and local native plant use in the city. Grants may focus on applying the city's biodiversity guidelines to greening projects within the city and county of San Francisco, including developing replicable models for integrating biodiversity and ecological knowledge into greening projects, or building community capacity and biodiversity knowledge that results in a greening project. Projects may support education and outreach, but all projects in this category must result in a completed greening project. Target communities may include one or more of the following: environmental justice communities with moderate to high environmental burden. Again, please see the environmental justice communities map. And low-income residents, American Indian Native residents, youth, seniors, people with disabilities, or other populations who are disproportionately burdened by climate change. Some examples of urban greening projects include, but are not limited to, transforming a community space into a native plant garden, developing a traditional native garden that enhances biodiversity, community members collaborating on the transformation of a space into a shared teaching garden, greening efforts specifically in District 8, particularly shared sidewalk gardens and/or street trees. Please refer to the manual for more examples, as well as examples of projects not of interest to this category. Of special note, all urban greening project applications must result in a completed greening project within 24 months of award, and clearly state the location of your greening project in your application. Please note if your project is located in District 8 on the application cover sheet. And finally, I will place the link to San Francisco's biodiversity guidelines in the chat, but it can also be found on page 11 of the RFP document. And now I will hand it back to Sheila.
Okay. So we're going to go through the RFP process, and the following applicants are invited to apply for grants in any category: nonprofit organizations, community-based and grassroots nonprofit organizations, projects that are fiscally sponsored by nonprofits or CBOs, for-profit entities, or any organization that is not a nonprofit are only invited to apply in the zero waste category. Any proposals from for-profit entities and other categories will be disqualified and will not be reviewed. Multiple applications are allowed either for different projects in the same category or for different projects in different categories. However, Each application requires a separate complete proposal package, including cover page. For example, if you're a nonprofit, you can apply in the toxics category and the urban greening category as long as you complete a full application for each project and submit it by the deadline. Also, for example, if you are a for-profit, you can apply for zero waste funds for 2 unique projects as long as you complete a full application for each project and submit it by the deadline. Beginning on page 14 of the official RFP document, you will find a description for all required proposal elements. Please download and use the templates provided in the city supplier portal or at SFE Environment's website for your application. The templates are intended to make the application process easier for you. Please be sure to read and follow the directions on each template. The links to download the templates will be provided in the chat. Templates are available for attachments A, B, C, and D. The cover page and checklist, the proposal narrative, the work plan, and the budget. There is no template for attachment E. Attachment E should contain additional documentation from your organization, including your proof of tax exempt status, your agency's current annual budget, your agency's organizational chart, and a list of your board of directors. Fiscally sponsored projects should upload their fiscal sponsors' information for attachment E. Please do not include any additional information in your package. Generally, we do not require letters of support, and they will not be reviewed by the panel. However, if multiple entities are collaborating on a single proposal and/or you have named subawardees or partners in your proposal, we do want you to include a letter of partnership for each collaborating partner / subcontractor that outlines roles and commitment. Letters should be no longer than 1 page, signed and submitted in PDF form, along with organizational information in attachment E. In the application project, please note, if partners already have an existing MOU, this may be submitted in lieu of a signed letter. Please read pages 15 through 19 of the official RFP document, which takes you step by step through the completion of each template. So we're just highlighting some of the instructions here. Please review the RFP carefully. Questions must be submitted to the administrator at environmentsfebids@sfegov.org. Information must be provided at a level of detail that enables effective evaluation and comparison to the RFP. Proposers must submit the proposal to the administrator at environmentsfebids@sfgov.org prior to the proposal submission deadline, and please request confirmation of receipt. SFE reserves the right to issue an addendum. Beginning on page 19 of the official RFP document, you will find a link to a data collection form called Communities Served Information. Oh, sorry, Melissa. Here you go.
That's okay. That's okay. This is something new, so I wanted to take an extra moment and an extra slide to talk about it. So this on page 19 of the document, you'll find a link to what we're calling the Community Served Information Form. The purpose of this form is to better understand San Francisco Environment's reach in the community and to be able to provide information on the department's outreach efforts with community-based organizations. And so all proposers are being invited to provide information on communities served both by your organization generally, as well as by the project that you are proposing in response to this RFP. So if you are on this call or you are interested in this RFP, please fill it out to the best of your ability. even if you don't submit an application, because we want to know who you are and who you serve generally. And if you also submit an application for this proposal, there are additional questions that you can answer about the specific project. It's important to note, though, that your participation in this forum is totally optional. The information will not be graded and it will not be seen by panel reviewers. This is purely for our internal outreach knowledge and understanding. The form has 9 questions. It takes a little bit less than 5 minutes to complete. As mentioned, the link to the form can be found on page 19 of the RFP, but I have also already placed it in the chat. Back to you, Sheila.
Okay, so we just wanted to review some of the final dates as well. So the final date for questions is May 16th at 12 p.m. noon. Submission of the RFP is due, or submission for the proposals are due May 30th at 12 p.m. Notice of intent to award is tentative, and hopefully that will happen June 27th. If not, it will be a later date, and all proposers will receive a response. Estimated project begin date is tentative as well, and we're hoping that we can start this sometime in August. So you don't have to be a city supplier at the time you submit your proposal. However, your application, when you're working on your application, you should take into consideration that at some point in time, you will need to become a city supplier if you are selected as a proposer. Therefore, you should start the process early so that you can overcome any issues that might occur when being set up in the city supplier system. Okay, so we are now open to take questions. All questions and any answers provided today will be transcribed. As noted on the front page of the RFP document, we will also accept written questions until May 16th. Proposers must submit written questions to environmentsfebids@sfgov.org. A response to all written questions, as well as the questions and answers provided today, will be provided for today after May 16th. There will be follow-up after that date. So if you don't hear back from us, it's not that we haven't taken the questions in consideration. We're working on them. Okay, so if you have a question, I guess I would suggest you raise your hand and then maybe we can start from there.
Sheila, there are a few questions
In
in
the chat?
I don't know if
Okay.
you wanted to handle those first. I
Sure.
was
Yeah, we can
going
start with the chat
backwards
first.
from the bottom, but let me find the first question. Trying to get to the top here. Sorry, folks, it got long.
Melissa, I've been taking notes on the questions. Should I just read it out?
Sure, go
Please
ahead.
do. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. So Kirsty asked, is this amount over the 2 years or each of the 2 years?
The amount is the full scope of the grant. So depending on how you are contracted, what you apply for, and what you say in your proposal. So maybe you want to apply for a grant that's only 12 months long. You say so in your grant application proposal, and your budget then is for a 12-month grant. Whether or not you are selected goes through the same criteria. The grants can go up to 24 months. So it's not like we're going to reissue another 1.1 million RFP for next year. This is all the money that we are granting out right now for projects that are up to 24 months long. Hopefully that's clear. If not, please ask a sub question.
So to clarify, for instance, you are awarded 20,000 and your project is for the 2 years. So then it'd be 10,000 and 10,000, correct?
Correct, if that is the budget that you're asking for. If you are asking for $20,000 for 24 months of work, then that is how much that money will be. So it depends on what you write up in your budget. So it is entirely up to your purview. If you have a project with a budget that can go up to 24 months, that is larger than 20,000. So that's something that you decide on when you are developing your proposal application.
Thank you.
Christopher Daw asked, would COFAM, which is Corporation of Fine Arts Museums, would they be eligible to apply, even though the Fine Arts Museums are a city agency?
I don't know. Sheila, do you know?
So is the organization considered a nonprofit or a CBO? I'm sorry, are you still on the call? Could you respond over the mic versus in the chat? Okay, so if not, a city agency is not considered a nonprofit. So if you are working with that particular group, that would, I don't believe that would preclude you from applying.
Russell Visitation Valley Connections asked, is there a list of all the orgs or businesses that are eligible to apply for this round? That this would be helpful to form partnerships.
As far as I know, we do not keep a list of organizations or businesses that are eligible to apply. It is possible that you may have met some folks who were thinking about applying at the networking event. That was our primary reasoning for holding it. And also, if you are on this call and you see others who are on this call that you're interested in speaking with, you can certainly reach out directly to them in the chat, but we do not maintain a list like that.
Kim asked, can an organization apply to more than category, I'm assuming more than one category, without competing against ourselves?
So if you're competing in a category, you would be competing against whichever other proposers are competing in that category. If you are the only particular proposer in that category, then you, I mean, more or less would be the only proposer. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by competing against yourself, though. Sorry.
Arturo from Ghana asks, can successful projects funded during the most recent grant period be replicated in this RFP?
Yes, you're not precluded from reapplying into a different RFP just because if you were successful or applied in a previous RFP.
And I want to add, Arturo, if this is the same or similar project or building out of that project, please make mention in your application, and this is noted in the official RFP document, of the success that you had in the previous applicant round with the project, because that will be taken into consideration.
Marcos Major asks, why D8? Why District 8?
Yes, I was just looking to see if Sheila wanted to answer that one. Apologies. There is a small set aside specifically for District 8 that was due to a budgetary add back. So projects that are specifically in urban greening category only going for D8 will only compete against other projects going for D8. I do not know if there is a full limit or a cap on the size of that grant, but just that's why D8. So any other part of the city where you are proposing an urban greening project will not compete against the D8 projects.
Marcus also asked, you mentioned a group can apply to multiple categories. Are we able to stack them into one larger project, or do they need separate applications?
They're going to need separate applications for each category, each project.
Kim asked, are indirect costs included in the award amount?
There's a budget template that's included in the application package. So when you download that template, you will see that there is a line available for you to configure indirect costs as well as fringe and personnel. So when you are setting out your budget, please make sure to add that line item, and then yes, it will be included in the full grant amount.
Jennifer Chan asked, does SFE allocate a certain amount to current partners in the RFP process?
So each organization is going to be more or less starting from, I guess you would say, scratch in applying for this. There's not necessarily a carve out for previous partners. So you would just apply for the category or the project, and that's how you're going to be scored in the RFP based on your response and the information you provide for that category or project.
Connie Elizabeth asks, for the community education and engagement, are youth considered to be college students?
For this one, I would, excuse me, like to call on Shraddha if you are available to answer the question.
Sure. Yes, you can apply for a grant that focuses on college students.
Tracy Tuin from UCSF asks, it was mentioned that environmental justice burden communities per the EJ map shown would be prioritized across all funding categories. However, specific categories like zero waste indicate that target populations can be one or more, including EJ burden communities and other criteria. Can you clarify that projects not focusing on EJ burden communities are still eligible even if not prioritized?
Yes, that is correct. EJ communities are a priority, but they are not a requirement. So if you have other target audiences that are noted in the RFP, if you have specific groups that are noted in the RFP under other target audiences, they are all eligible. EJ communities are simply our priority as the SF Environment Department. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. Anya, are you reading another question? You might be muted. I can't see.
Yeah, I think we can remove this slide, stop sharing so we can see everybody's faces. The next question is from Russell, Visitation Valley Connections. Is the grant amount entirely reimbursement based?
Yes, it will be reimbursement based. You will incur the cost, submit an invoice, and then payment will be made on behalf of SFE.
James Hart of Pollinator Partnership asks, does applying for two categories reduce the likelihood that either proposal would be selected, or are they considered totally separately?
They're considered separate. You're not going, when one does not conflict with the other.
Chris Williams Renard asks, if a submitter submits more than one proposal within the same category, substantially different concepts though, could more than one of their submissions be awarded?
Yes, it is possible that more than one of your submissions in the same category could be awarded if they are two completely unique projects with full applications that score highest.
That's all there's in the chat.
Okay, so it looks like we had some raised hands. Let's see. Okay, let's go with Avni. Says you're the first one, I believe.
Hi, thank you. My question is, are any of these project ideas related to the climate action plan update process that's also occurring this year? Does it need to align with the CAP, or is it completely unrelated to the CAP activities?
That is a complicated answer. So actually, Shraddha, would you mind taking that one?
Sure. It is intended to align with our climate action goals. However, the funding categories are dependent on the sources of funding. And so the descriptions of the types of projects that are funded through each category relates to the funding source. So I think that's why Melissa said it's a little bit of a complicated answer where, yes, generally we want this to align with our climate action plan goals. And we are tying the scope of each of these grants to the funding sources that are funding them. So hope that answers your question, Avni.
Thank you, Shraddha. In that case, are those funding sources public or not? And what are they, if so?
I think, Melissa, I feel like you included the funding sources in the networking event slides. I can't recall. Is it in the RFP itself as well?
I believe it is in the RFP as well, that details what funding pools and sources these categories are.
Okay, Connie, do you want to ask your question? Connie, we can't hear you.
Does the applicant have to be from the city of, the businesses applying have to be from the city of San Francisco, even if the work is going to be done in the city of county of San Francisco?
No, they do not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Russell, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, thank you. This is kind of a little bit more clarification on the list of who's eligible to apply for this. So my understanding is this list of eligible applicants, well, is this open to anyone who sees the RFP, or is it only open to the folks who went through that vetting process like a year ago or 6 months ago?
So anyone is allowed, however, as we stated previously, only for-profits are only allowed to respond to zero waste. Aside from that, nonprofit CBOs, and it doesn't matter what you have applied to before. Does that answer your question? Go ahead.
Not necessarily what they applied to before, but there was this process to get on the vendor list. And
yes.
Is this only going out to those folks, or this is going out to anyone who sees the RFP?
This is open to anyone that sees the RFP.
Okay, thank you.
This is not an RFQ process. So we have not done a previous RFQ for this. This is an RFP, and it's just been released. So we're going to pick the proposers that apply to this directly. We're not developing a list as an RFQ typically does. Maybe that's what you were asking.
If
Thanks.
I may add.
Thanks, Leo.
if I may add, the RFQ process was very specifically for community engagement, and it would result in a contract. This is a grant, so totally different process, totally different needs and funding sources.
Avni, is your hand up from before, or do you have a new question?
Okay, so it looks like we're pretty
There's
much
one
coming.
more.
All right.
There are a couple more questions in the chat. I can read those out.
Okay.
What is the reimbursement time frame? Net 30 or 45 days?
It's 30 days.
The other question is from Rose Paratore, asking, are air quality projects considered climate or sustainability for the community engagement category?
Shraddha?
Yes.
I also want to clarify from before, someone asked about the D8 in the early questions, and I have more information. There's a $35,000 set aside just for projects in D8. I don't want you to feel like you have to apply for a urban greening category project for D8. Just know that there is just some money specifically for that district, and the rest is for anywhere in the city doing greening projects, as noted in the RFP.
All right, Tress.
Hello, thank you. Just a clarifying question about the community education and engagement section. Does this include disadvantaged business enterprise education, engagement, and training as part of community, specifically contractor training and education?
Is it a nonprofit that would be applying to engage the businesses?
Yes, that's correct.
Then yes, that is allowed.
Thank you.
Madeline Whittle also asks, is there a preference for proposals from new or previously successful applicants?
No, there is no preference. If you are a new applicant or a previous applicant, you still need to meet the same scoring criteria and will be reviewed in the same way. Previous applicants who have had successful grants will need to show their past successes, and those will be taken into account. New applicants will have to show past successes about other grants that they may have received from other entities.
Okay, so it looks like we've made it through most of the questions. As we said, we'll have follow-up for the questions and answers after May 16th. And if you have any further questions, feel free to send them to the SFE environment email that was shared in the presentation that is included in the RFP document. Thank you all for coming today, and we look forward to seeing some of your proposals.